obviously I can't ask all of your questions because there are so many of them. And the online students, they emailed me questions as well. So I'm going to try to ask some of their questions because we are videotaping this. So hopefully by the first of next week we'll be able to get this up and the online students can watch the video, and those who weren't here can watch the video as well. So our first panel, we were supposed to have 3 members. The one member that couldn't be here is Chloe, and she is finishing her MBA at Alfred University. And she had a class today which was supposed to start at 4:40. She got an email and changed the time of the class to start at. So I asked her, could she at least just email me a statement about what it's like to study abroad. Now Chloe is from France, and she earned her, I think, her first degree was from IAE Lille, which is in Lille, France. And then she came to Alfred State and finished her technology management degree. And now she's at AU working on her MBA. All right, so there is, education, you can do that. So here's Chloe's statement. Studying in France is quite different than studying in the US. However, if you are looking to join the BBA at the IAE of Lille, it won't be that different than studying in Alfred. This is a great but intense program that will improve your ability to work fast and efficiently. So all of you procrastinators, this might be good for you, right? And you will meet wonderful people from all over Europe. Because IAE will draw students from all over Europe, and actually all over, probably from the Eastern Hemisphere, from other countries as well too. The classes are taught by great professors from Europe, Canada, and the United States. All the classes are in English, so you don't need to speak French to go there. Plus, Lille is a metropolitan city. How far is it from Paris? About an hour from Paris, north of Paris, right? Yes. So it's a very large city. Paris is close by, a lot of other areas that you can go visit. Oh yeah, she said it is 1 hour away by train. 1 hour from Belgium and 2 hours from England. So if you get on the train, within 2 hours you can be in some major cities. It is a place to be. About being an international student in America. It is the greatest experience of my life, and I would do it over and over. And hopefully I would work my way through so I can work here as well. So she's hoping after her MBA to stay in the U.S. and to work in the U.S. Being an international student requires you to be flexible. You need to be willing to be challenged at all times, at work, at school, personally. It is not easy every day, and sometimes you feel a little homesick. But at the end of the day, it's also rewarding. You learn so much about yourself, what you're capable of, and it makes you mature faster. I'm really thankful to have had this incredible opportunity to open my boundaries, and I wish I didn't have a final today, so I could have joined you. So take a risk, go study abroad, and I promise it will be worth it. We've not had any students go to IAE Lille for the BBA yet, but they also have an executive graduate degree, which our students can do. It's really an exchange program. So you pay Alfred State tuition to go to IAE Lille and you get their degree. And only additional expense you have to pay would be your living expenses. So if any of you are thinking after your degree here at Alfred State, your bachelor's degree, if you want to think about studying in France and getting your master's at IAE Lille, you can see me about it, or you can also talk to Dr. Havlitt. He's our Vice President and Provost, and he teaches the International Human Resource Management class at IAE Lille. All right. Now our other 2 panel members, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Hopefully you can hear them. I'm going to let you start first, Ayana. Yes, you.
My name is Ayana. I'm from Japan. I went to France for study on business, and I was selected as an exchange student, so I came here to study business.
You earned your first degree in Japan.
I graduated from junior college in Japan, and then I transferred to third year in France, and then I came here and I transferred to fourth year.
So she has 2 bachelor's degrees. She earned a BBA at IAE Lille, and then she came here in 1 more year and got a tech management bachelor's degree. so she actually has 3 degrees. All right.
My name is Emily, and I studied last spring in Sorrento, Italy. I'm actually an architecture student because the business students that were there with me that semester have both graduated. But I did live with them, so I know a little bit about the business stuff as well.
And unfortunately, I tried to get them to Skype in with us, but they're working, they have jobs. Imagine that. They had to go to work after they graduated, so we couldn't get them to Skype in today, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to serve as the moderator, and I just picked a couple questions, and I'm going to let them answer some of your questions. Make sure we get the right ones here. What made you decide to study in another country?
Sure. Well, when I was in high school, I took one of those week trips to France. I was part of an art class, and I loved it. I loved traveling. I loved seeing all the architecture and the art. I'm now an architecture student. And that really got me interested in traveling, and I just thought that living in Italy for a whole semester would be an incredible experience to see the culture and to travel in Europe, because once you're there, it's really like traveling between states. Once you're in the European Union, it's very easy, and it was really great.
I was interested in seeing something new that I've never seen, so I decided to go to France because I went there as just for traveling, but I had never lived there before. So.
When you came to the U.S. Did you catch on to the language quickly? Is there any language issues? Yeah, a lot. Where was it more difficult, in France or the U.S.?
France.
France?
Yes. Because French is totally different from Japanese and English. And just the pronunciation is really difficult for me, so I had a very difficulty to study French.
Now you were in France too, right? In high school?
Yes. I took Spanish in high school, so traveling in Spain and in Italy was a lot easier for me to understand. French is somewhat similar, so you can kind of figure things out looking at signs, but at least in Europe, pretty much everywhere they list things in Italian, English, Spanish, French, and German. Almost all of the signs in the really touristy areas, and everywhere else a lot of things are in English as well, so it wasn't too bad.
I would only remember you studied Spanish in high school. Anybody? It's amazing what comes back to you. It is, that's Romance language, and a lot of the words that you would use every day are similar. So, see? Right? See? That's one of them. What was the biggest culture shock?
That's a tough one. I mean, you have there's like a culture shock pattern. When you get there, you're really excited, everything's new. Then you hit a downhill, you're really homesick. Then you get used to it. Then you come home and you go through culture shock again because everything's new and you're home. And then you get sad you miss wherever you were, Italy in this case. And then you even out again. So I'm not sure there's a specific thing. Maybe the language might be the biggest. The lifestyle's a little different. Being homesick, probably not seeing your family and friends and being able to call them on the phone.
Yeah?
When I was in France, I lived with French family, and we had a dinner together, and we had pizza, and I was eating pizza by hand, because until that time I was in Canada, so people eat pizza by hand. But my family started eating pizza. It's from at night.
They do in Italy too.
I was
That's cute, because in Italy you eat it from work at night as well too. You don't pick up your pizza. I'm glad you brought that one up. Did you have any free time to enjoy the culture? Anne, you want to start with that one?
I could enjoy seeing architecture there. Also, I went to Spain for my internship. It was just a new thing. For me, it was like tourist. I was working, but when I had a break time, I had time for shopping and sightseeing. So it was amazing.
try to give you the longest possible weekend. So like our Monday class started very late and our Friday class ended very early, which really accommodates traveling on weekends. And I traveled probably almost every other weekend I was there. And then in between classes, you know, at night and the evenings, there's a lot of time to really enjoy the Italian culture. It's very slow paced.
They do look at time differently, don't they?
Yes.
How do the people of those countries treat you?
The Italians are extremely friendly. They have a really good relationship with Americans because of the number of Italian families that emigrated to the United States. So there's a lot of Italian Americans, and most of them all speak English. Sorrento is a big tourist town, so we do get a lot of people coming through there, and everyone is extremely friendly.
I had a program in France with India, which is the first biggest city in France. And people understand English, but they don't speak English. So I had to respect them, and I had to try to speak French. So it's better to speak French before we go to
Did you study Italian before you went to Sorrento?
Yes, I took the Italian 1 course online with the professors over there. So that helped a lot too, having that basis of knowledge. And then when I was there, I took Italian too.
I remember last year, Chloe was here last year, and when we asked the question about that, she said the French don't even like their French. So she always hear that the French don't really like Americans, and she's like, oh, the French don't like the French either, so it doesn't really matter. All right, let's finish the other sheet here. Does it cost more to study abroad than if you were to go to classes at Alfred State?
Yes.
If yes, was the experience worth the additional expense?
It was. And you also keep in mind, the sheet that they give you is extremely deceptive because they just list this big number and then you think it's an insane amount of money or whatever, but you have to remember how much you're paying for your semester at Alfred, and when you subtract that, it's a lot less. It's not that number on top of what you pay for Alfred, it's that number total. And it's totally worth the experience. There's no other time in your life you're going to be able to go live in Europe and travel over there for so little money. I traveled to 9 cities for under $3,000.
That's really reasonable.
It really is. I mean, you have to take the cheap way out on a lot of things, but it's really not bad, and it's an incredible experience.
My son's doing a little study abroad thing with this high school class for 10 days. It's almost $3,000 for 10 days, and it's just Italy. So she's saying 3,009 cities in almost 4 months. So.
Transit guys pushing it.
No, that's not true.
I actually flew almost everywhere.
Yeah, the flights are very cheap over there. You know, it costs like $300, $400 to fly round trip to Florida. It's what, like $100 now for.
Yeah, and you know, the flight's only going to be an hour, hour and a half. So.
This is studying in France also cheaper because government supports students regardless of nationality. So government pay half of the rent.
Okay.
So it's like 200 euros. That means I forgot the American one. Maybe 260 baht.
Yeah, a little bit more, yeah.
It's not much. So I think it's very cheap.
Yeah, when you study, as I said, in IA, well, for our students going to Lille, you pay Alfred State tuition, you pay the housing, which is probably more than our housing would be, but it's not going to be thousands and thousands of dollars in additional expense, so it would be a little bit more. The living arrangements. Did you have a homestay? You have an apartment.
I had an apartment.
Did you talk about the differences and so on?
Yeah. There's 2 options, living in an apartment with other students and homestay. And personally, we weren't given an option. We were all put in apartments, and the students from other schools were put in homestay. I don't know why or what, but it ended up being, we had 2 apartments for all the girls and then 2 apartments for all the boys. You have your own bedroom with a roommate, bathroom, kitchen, you grocery shop for yourself, you cook for yourself. And then a couple of the students I knew who were in the homestays, they lived with a family, and mom made meals and stuff like that.
And yours was a homestay
Yeah, homestay.
in France?
So I paid 450 euro per month, and I lived with French family, so they cooked for me. And on the beginning, I had a lunch together, and I could learn a little bit of French. So I think it was a good experience for me.
I know the homestays in Sorrento. Italy's very traditional. A lot of women don't work, so they still stay home and they cook a big meal. And one of the business students, he said that every day he'd go home and his Italian mama, he called him Italian mama, would always have dinner for me, and every day we had dolce. Which means dessert. So every day she would have a special dessert for him. So he got the royal treatment. Let's see. Were you able to take the same classes that you would have needed to take here?
I was, and again, I'm in architecture, so it's a little different. But Jeff Johnson from the architecture program and then Dan Tusolino from the business program both come over with us, and they offer the classes that you need. There's a lot of liberal arts classes offered by Strassi Lingue, the Italian school. So for me, it kept me perfectly on track for graduation without any problems.
I didn't need to take some class.
And the same thing for the business students. We don't have a business student represented, but everything you need to take on campus you can take while you're in Sorrento. Do you think that your experiences, your international experiences, will improve your resume and your chances of being hired?
Yes.
Especially if you want to work for an international company. What about cost for personal things? You know, like your trips and food and that type of thing. So if a student was to go to Sorrento or to France, how much spending money should they take with them?
At least $4,500 for food and rent, plus airplane ticket and insurance and textbooks. And also if you want to go party or travel.
It kind of depends on what you want to do. I mean, obviously the plane ticket is going to be, between 1,000 and 2,000 probably. It depends on what things are like at the time. And then food in Italy is more expensive than the United States. It's more expensive and it comes in smaller sizes. But there's also, are you going to eat out a lot? Are you going to go to the bar every night? Things like that. And then traveling. I think I spent about $1,500 on like personal items and souvenirs and food. And then, as I mentioned, I did a lot of traveling as well, which is an additional expense.
Still pretty reasonable. If you were to look at
It really
vacation,
is.
how much you spend on your own vacation per week. What about someone who has a culinary background? Can they study abroad? Would be good for them, especially in Sorrento?
Absolutely. Yeah, Italy is probably the best place on earth for food. Everything is fresh every day. Everything is seasonal. Everything's homemade. It's incredible.
Wait, what was the question?
Someone with a culinary background, so if they had a 2-year culinary arts degree, would it help them to study abroad in France? Cooking.
Yeah, I think I ate a lot of French food in France. It was really good. So I think it's good.
It's very, very rich too, right? What about a student with that type of background? I'm not sure you have that in here, but they want me to ask the question.
I think it depends what the person wants. If the person is very interested in cultural experience, I think it's a good opportunity. Or like my sister, she went to Vancouver, but she didn't enjoy it. So if she's not interested in it, then I don't know.
So Canada, Vancouver, right?
I agree. I think it depends on. I personally think that a cultural experience is good for everyone. And if someone in tech is interested in studying abroad, I would encourage it. There are a lot of strains in Italy that you can take care of.
What is the most significant and/or important thing that you learned or gained from your experience studying abroad?
Learn how to interact with people from out of the world. So
I'll give kind of a broad answer and say that, you know, one of the best things I learned was a greater respect and understanding of other cultures, and a much greater appreciation for what we have here in the United States. There are a lot of things we have here that we take for granted. Heat, cheap electricity, full-size washers, dryers. They don't have dryers unless you go to the laundromat and pay a couple euros. Everything gets hung out on the balcony, and if it's raining, tough. I mean, things are very, very different. Healthcare here is so much better. They have socialized healthcare in Italy, and it's pretty rough. So there are a lot of things that we have here. That transportation. There's a lot that we should be very thankful we have.
This is more towards you. Do you think the educational experience will be worth it if you are a non-architectural major?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorrento Lingue is a fantastic school. They offer a ton of courses. The archaeology course is probably everyone's favorite because it's right near Pompeii and Herculaneum and Mount Vesuvius, and they take a ton of field trips. We went to all the nearby archaeological sites. And they offer history courses, art courses, Italian cinema, journaling, photography. It's really, and obviously all the business courses as well, since I'm assuming most of you are business students. So it's definitely worth it. Even if you just want to go over there and get the cultural experience and take the liberal arts credits, a lot of the liberal arts are geared toward an Italian slant, so history of Italian art or Italian civilization, so that's really cool.
Somebody had asked the question, and neither of them did an internship in Sorrento, but I know the internship in Sorrento, Professor Tozzolino works with Christiana, who is executive director of Santa Ana. Depending on what area you're interested in, whether it's marketing or culinary or whatever, she works with Christiana to place the students in the internship. Now, obviously, a resume and a cover letter have to go to them for them to approve of the internship, but that's usually set up before you even go to Italy. Okay, so she does that. How was your internship set up? You said you did your internship in Spain. How did that work at AUL?
Well, I took now different work style between Japan and European. It is so much different. So it was very good experience.
Did they pick it for you? Like, did you say I want an internship and they said you're going to go work for this company?
Actually, I found myself.
Oh, you found it yourself?
It's like my responsibility to find an internship in different countries, especially if I speak really good French, then I can work in France, but I don't. So, yeah, so I had to find it in
So in Spain, there was no language barrier for you in Spain?
my coworker didn't speak any English in English. Sometimes my coworkers speak only Spanish, French, and English. So it was very interesting.
Good. Well, those were probably the most common themes that people had asked questions. Do any of you have a follow-up question that you're sitting there, they've talked about a couple things that sparked your interest that you want to ask? Another question? Additional question? You're always this quiet. I heard you were at lunch, so. Nobody? Is there anything either of you want to add?
I think so. It's a great experience, and if you think you can swing it, you should definitely look into studying abroad in Sorrento.
I got a question, good.
How much time and effort did you put into the experience previous to going, and what do you recommend is the best way to do it?
You mean like getting prepared to go?
Yes.
Well, the trickiest thing is getting a visa. It's the most time consuming because you have to go to the Italian consulate in New York City. It's the nearest one. I would definitely get that done as soon as possible. I would also recommend, if you can do it, committing to the trip in May for the next spring versus waiting until the fall semester and then signing up to go in the spring. Some students have done that, but I think that it does stress you a bit more because it's a little bit more last minute. Definitely just make sure you're prepared in advance. I recommend taking Italian, some sort of Italian, even if you just watch little YouTube videos on it, getting acclimated to how the words are pronounced, what certain things are, is really helpful as well. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
Is there anything that you learned while studying that you wish you had known prior to leaving?
You mean like studying Italian or just getting
Just
prepared
like
in general?
something you were like, oh, well, I wish I had known this before I left. Not necessarily language, whatever.
I don't know. I'm not sure there's anything specific that I really missed out on.
They do have a meeting prior to going to Sorrento to help you know what to pack and how much, and personal items, deodorant, things like that, what you can pack and how much it's going to cost if you take an extra piece of luggage. So they really do a good job educating you in that area before you go.
Yeah, we had periodic meetings in the fall semester leading up to it to kind of get us prepared. This is what you need to have done. This is what you need to bring. One thing I will kind of say, that I'm thinking about it, with the luggage, you can buy stuff there. And for the cost of adding the weight of shampoo and conditioner and all that stuff to your bag, just buy it when you get there. Because you're not going to want to bring it home with you anyway. You're just going to want to throw it out. And so just get the little one when you're there. And bring a wide range of clothes. The architecture professor likes to tell us about how nice it is over there. And it is very nice over there. But in January, it's still like 40 degrees
And
for
you
the
get a
first
cold
couple
spell.
weeks. And yeah, while you guys were having a very warm winter, Europe got like its coldest winter in 50 years, and it snowed in Rome. And so just bring layers. It does still get cooler, especially in the evening at night if you're going out to dinner or something and you want.
And the grocery store is very close by.
Yes, everything's within walking distance, which is really
And
nice.
of course, in Italy, they're very fashionable, so there's lots of places to buy clothes. And there's places to shop that's not the tourist areas, so you're not going to pay the tourist price. So, if you shop in the tourist areas, it's going to be more expensive. But if you know where the locals go to do their shopping, then you're going to pay a lot less money to do that. Wouldn't you say, too, to exchange your money once you got to Italy?
Oh, that's a good point. I exchanged, I think, like $100 American before I went, so that I had some euros. Because, like, for example, we stopped in Germany. We had a layover in Germany before getting to Naples. So, it was nice to have some cash already to buy some stuff. There's a lot of ATMs in Sorrento, and there's one in particular that's across from the grocery store that none of us got charged a fee for. Unless your bank charges you a fee, that ATM did not charge you a fee to get money out of it. So I just used my credit card to make a withdrawal of euros, and it's very easy.
Last question.
If you're planning to go, because both of you had two different experiences of staying, would you recommend either the apartment or the home? Which one would you pick for the next time you made a point or were making that again?
I would still pick apartment. I'm sure homestay is a very good cultural experience. It might be a bit too much for me, personally. So I liked being able to have the apartment. Because also, Italian homes are very small, and their sense of personal space is very different.
Yeah, most buildings are, 3 or 4 stories, and they live in apartments, like a whole family, extended family. You might have, the parents, and then son and daughter-in-law, and 4 or 5 different families living in one building, and they're all their own apartments.
Europeans are not as big as
Where'd that come from?
France.
All right. Well, let's thank Emily and Ayana. You're welcome to stay and listen to this. Good job. All right, well, we're switching. Our next panel are going to be 3 students who have done internships. They're still students, so they did their internships over the summertime. So some of the questions that were posed were, did you get hired out of your internship? And obviously they're here, so they knew going into their internship that they did not need a job at the end, right? Can I say that? Your internship was not your last semester, so you did not have the expectation of being hired out of your internship.
Right.
And I know some of you, I mean, you may eventually, if you go back, but I know some of you asked the question, did you get hired out of your internship? So I'm going to answer this question as the internship coordinator, that we do have a lot of students who get hired out of their internship when it's their last semester. Probably about 90%, 85 to 90% of students do get hired out of their internship, which is a really high percentage. Nationwide, it's about 50%. All right, so let's start with the questions. What steps did you take to search for and attain your internship? I'm going to ask that one of you first, Alex. You go first.
Well, I went to the Career Center and started like beefing my resume up in October-ish of last year. And I just started talking to companies, and I went to all the job fairs that they had on campus. And believe it or not, I actually got an email from my professor in Wellsville, my old professor in Wellsville, and he recommended me for an internship at Mazda Mechanical. That's where I did my internship in Olean. And I actually got the recommendation from him, and that's where I took off. I did a lot of work, but I got the recommendation from him. So, I mean, it's up to you guys how much work you put into it.
Mine was fairly easy, because I had experience working for the company in the field before I tried asking them if I could work for them in the office. So it was my first phone call. They told me that they didn't do internships, but I talked to them in starting an internship, and they've actually agreed with it. And I'm not sure if they started another person after me, but they were looking into continuing internships.
And I really think they wanted you to stay. They would have hired you.
Yeah, they asked me not to go back to school.
They would have hired them, so.
Same here.
What about you, Ryan? Had two.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to do two of them, one 12 credit and one 6 credit, so, yeah.
Edit that out of the video.
Sorry. No, I worked with Professor Staba, and I got my resume all complete, and I just pretty much kind of figured out what I was interested in, and I was interested in the more sports area of the business. So I just kind of, I don't know, set my resume into the Rochester Red Wings, Rochester Rhinos for the, and I got hired, luckily. So just got to know when to
If
apply.
we did a little brainstorming, because Ryan, while he's not a sport management major and didn't want to go back and take all those credits to get the bachelor's degrees in the tech management program, we just did a little brainstorming. Where did you want to be? What area? We started looking at teams that were in Rochester. And Ryan was actually our first one to do a Rochester Red Wings internship. Both of them actually. So he kind of laid the groundwork there. And so but he did it himself. I mean, we did the brainstorming. I gave him the numbers and the addresses and that type of thing. But he sent in his resume, he did the interview, and he did it all on his own. I just helped him brainstorm. How difficult would you say it is to budget your social lives, academic lives, and everything else with an internship?
I'll go first. Well, I kind of lucked out. The company that I was working for actually realized that I had papers to write and stuff, so they gave me a little bit of time during the normal workday to finish the papers.
I wasn't so lucky. I did my internship for a project management portion of the company, which I'd never dealt with before. So that was really stressful in itself, and I commuted an hour and a half one way to this internship because I had sort of a free place to live. So I balanced that out, and it actually worked out being cheaper commuting. So that was stressful. And doing the papers themselves, I mean, yeah, they're a little tedious, but it was pretty easy because of all the stuff I was doing in the internship, so it really wasn't that bad. And the social life, well, didn't really have but that's the real world, so.
Ryan, did you want to add? Anything else?
Pretty much said it all.
All right. What knowledge or skills did you learn while you were on your internship that you think that you, well, let me ask this a different way. The wording is weird here. What knowledge or skills did you get from your internship that you couldn't have gotten in the classroom?
The field experience is definitely the main one. My first job started out meeting, it was a coordination meeting. I don't know if you're used to looking at prints in school, but when you go out to a job and it hasn't even started yet, you have two stakes in two opposite corners of a blank field, and you have to talk to the plumbers and where you want to run your conduit and where they're going to be running their pipes. You can't get that in a classroom.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Dave. I went into project management, and it was, I had taken business courses here, I had taken the heating and air conditioning course here, and you think it's stressful here. Well, it was very stressful, and I guess that was the one thing that I learned, was that the real world, you have to learn how to accept failure, I guess. Because you're not always going to be right, and you're not always going to know exactly what to do, and that was one of the big things that I learned.
Just pretty much being in a professional setting every day, just getting the experience and building future connections, possibly.
And job opportunities, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you recommend for future students who will be required to do an internship?
You want me to start? I would recommend looking early. If you're planning on doing your internship this summer, it might even be a little too late to start, just because of how much is involved with trying to coordinate with people. Like, some people are really lucky with Dave, you know, he made one phone call and he was pretty much in. Me, I did a lot more research, and in the end, it was kind of easy for me to get it. I went to like 3 interviews, but I would just say, know what you want to do, and start early for it.
Yeah, pretty much know what you want to do and just keep following up on, keep calling, ask, they came up with a decision, how did my interview go and whatnot. Just don't keep them through with it. Follow them.
And you might want to try and start saving up money for that little bit of tuition now, so you don't have to take out an extra loan for your
Doing the
your
summer.
extra summertime.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It took me, I almost didn't make it, but I got through and got the money to do it.
So all of you lived, you all had free housing. None of you had to pay rent.
Well, I sort of did, not really, but I paid a little bit. It wasn't full rent, no.
Because that was one of the questions, we won't be able to answer that. For those of you who did your internship, that wasn't your home, you had to pay for your rent. If you're doing it in a regular semester where you normally get financial aid, just ask for enough financial aid to cover your housing costs, if you can get that for a student home. There were times that they were going to do that. Did any of you have a paid internship?
Yeah, mine was paid.
Mine was paid to $10 an hour. Oh, believe me, it went quickly. 120 bucks a week in fuel and whatever else you paid, and phone bill, car insurance. Yeah, it goes quickly, but it was worth it. Definitely the experience.
So yours was paid?
Yes, mine was paid.
Yours could have been if you had a different one, though, right?
Well, yeah, if I was full-time.
The Rhinos?
Working, yeah, doing sales and stuff, but I wasn't required to do that, so.
So they had 2 different internships at the Rhinos, a part-time one, which was not paid, and a full-time one, but you actually had to do ticket sales and that type of thing, so it was inside ticket sales.
We just strictly did game day stuff, so.
Has your internship changed the direction of your career, if at all?
Yeah, it's definitely changed the direction of mine.
That's why I wanted you up here.
It made me realize that the office work really isn't for me. I'd rather be in the field. And I think if I did my internship the summer or the winter after I graduated, that I might have got stuck in the office because it was already there. But it gave me some time to get into the apprenticeship and go work in the field. It's still the same trade, but just a little bit different line of work.
Yeah, I realized that I might want to do project management like future, like when I'm sick of doing manual labor for 25 years. But I think, like Dave, I'd like to stick in the field at first because the office work was pretty tough for me. 8 hours in an office is harder than it looks.
Ryan?
I don't know. I mean, I prefer working, more in the sports field.
So it didn't change
Working
your mind?
outdoors, not in like in an office setting.
What was the hardest thing about your internship? The hardest part of it?
I think it was leaving, having to come back to school and losing the weekly paychecks.
Mine was like getting to know the culture of the company because, I mean, I was their first intern. And I didn't know anybody in the company before going into the internship, so I was brand new, wet behind the ears, this 20-year-old kid that was blabbing in their ear about how I went to Alfred State and I'm an intern. So getting to know everybody and like actually making myself look credible was pretty hard for me. And talking on the phone, believe it or not, is really hard to companies. The first time I answered the phone, I was like, my name's Alex from Mazda Mechanical. And then, it's tough. Just all these little things that you wouldn't expect are pretty hard once you get out there.
It's funny you would say that because, in the final papers that the interns write, of course I read all of them, and that's one of the things that they say is, answering the phone is scary.
Yeah.
That's why you all text, right? Because then you don't have to answer the phone. But what do you say? If you don't know the answer, what do I do with the person?
The receptionist on the other line will tear you apart too. Wow. I mean,
Yeah, the first time answering a phone is kind of like your first presentation. It's almost similar to that. You're really nervous. You don't know what to expect.
Just like the first few weeks, trying to adapt to what's going on there, trying to get to know people. It's kind of hard because you don't really know what to expect. So
It's like starting a new job. It really is. Did you actually perform management duties, or were you just the gopher?
Yeah, I guess I did a lot of the gopher work, but there was some decisions that they would let me make. Not necessarily in the internship, but when I was asked to come back for the winter break, and they gave me a little bit more responsibility during that time than during the internship.
I started out, mine was over the whole summer. I started out doing, little tasks just to get used to it, and that was basically the gopher part of it. But then they found out that I had my OSHA 30 certification, so I rewrote their whole safety plan. That's management. That's definitely tough to tell guys that have been there for 30 years that their safety plan isn't existent and they need to fix it. I also, towards the end of it, they sent me out on project meetings by myself. And if any of you guys have ever been to a project meeting, it's kind of tough to follow. You got different contractors talking about different problems that are going on, and I had to represent Mazda as the heating and air conditioning portion of what was going on, so that was a little bit of management as well. So towards the end, I got quite a bit of experience for me.
I didn't really do so much management stuff. I just pretty much did all the regular internship duties, the promotions and sponsorship stuff that I did. There was a few times I was able to work with different like production and like broadcasting and stuff.
But you did have responsibilities.
Yeah.
You weren't just making copies and getting coffee and that kind of thing.
No, we each had our own individual things to do. So.
Well, talk a little bit about that, because in your paper, you were held accountable for things, and if it didn't go right, you had written a little bit about that. Can you talk to that just for a second?
Just like when a promotion was supposed to be done, how it was supposed to be done correctly. If it wasn't done on time or whatnot, we would hear from management, and
It wasn't pleasant.
no, sometimes it wasn't.
Some students want to do 12 credits of coursework in tech management instead of their internship. What do you have to say about that?
I I wanted to do the same thing, and you actually talked me out of it. You told me it was going to be a little bit too much, but I'm definitely glad you did that, because if I would have had to go home and then work for a little bit more, then that would have been a little tough.
I decided to do 6 credits of internship and 6 credits of coursework because I didn't have the actual funds at the time to do the full credit or the actual time either. The 12 credit, not the full credit. But I really enjoyed my internship. It gave me an experience to, actually learn something. Not that you don't learn something in coursework, but learn something about the real world. And coursework, I'm taking 2 upper-level business courses to make up for that, and those upper-level business courses are pretty tough. So it's all personal preference, but I would recommend the internship, at least doing half of
Actually, I think I misunderstood. Did you mean like a 12-credit internship, or 12 credits and then credits on top of that?
No, instead of doing 12 credits or 6 credits, instead of doing any internship at all, just taking 12 credits of courses instead of doing any internship.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no, I don't think that would have been worth it. The experience is definitely worth it.
You also have an in with a company, if you do a good job.
Yeah.
And a reference and a recommendation.
I mean, when I left my internship, I had, along with a cookie, they gave me a cookie, by the way. Huge cookie.
They usually have a going away party.
They, like, everybody in the office gave me their business card and said they would write a stand-up reference for me, and that's like 25 business cards right there. That is worth it. So that is well worth it besides coursework.
We're almost out of time. Does anyone have any additional questions that I didn't get to that you really want answered? Well, thank you. I appreciate it.